Today I got a call about a 1997 BMW that's been sitting for about 12 years. He's going through cleaning everything out of the garage and gave me a call thinking I might be able to help him out, get it running again, and so he can get it sold. So we'll hook up the trailer, we're gonna head into Wichita, and we're gonna see what we got. We just arrived at the house. Let's go take a look at this BMW. Well, that's pretty good looking.
I'm telling you.
And you are too, of course.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Kelly, how are you?
Hey, Michael, so glad you could come.
Thank you for having me. I mean, this is...
Is this a nice looking ride or what?
This is a very beautiful BMW motorcycle. 1997?
I think so. And I'm getting old and my legs are getting shorter, so it's kind of a tall bike, but last time I rode it was in 2011.
So it's been a little while since it was last on the road.
Yes, but I think with some TLC you can get it ready, and somebody would love to take that on the highway.
Oh, I'm sure there's plenty of people who'd be interested in this bike.
Yeah.
But how long has it been sitting?
Since
2011. Okay, yeah. So it's been a few years.
I was gonna see if Ian McGregor was interested, but I think he's got plenty of bikes of his own.
Yeah, take another one around the world.
But this is your multi-purpose trail and street bike.
Oh yeah, very good condition. 24,000 miles, so it's definitely been well ridden. Of course, it's been sitting, so no juice in the battery. But
this is how it begins.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see if we can get it running for you. We'll get it loaded up on the trailer, but yeah, we'll see if we can get it running, and I'm sure we can find you a buyer for this motorcycle.
Yeah, this even has a custom touring seat. That's not a stock seat.
Okay.
It's got that going for it.
Very nice.
Luggage, yeah.
The luggage racks, the actual BMW bags. Keys for all the bags, yeah. Very cool.
I've never laid it down, never been dropped.
Never been dropped, never been downed. Yeah, very nice. Take a look down here. Yeah, got a little bit of dirt and grime to it, but overall looks to be pretty good condition. I think we can get this rebuilt and running.
All right.
But we'll get it loaded up. Well, actually, let's talk a little bit about this Honda you got behind you.
Yeah, here's a 81 Honda CMT 200 Twin Star, and it's a super clean machine.
Yeah.
Look at the mileage on this baby.
Oh my goodness, 4,700 miles.
Still has the factory stickers on it.
Very nice. And you were telling me you were having a couple of issues with the choke. This choke lever just, or this cable doesn't seem to be routed correctly.
Somebody put an aftermarket carb on it because the original carb just gave up its ghost.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't choke, but it will start. It just doesn't keep running. It just needs choked and it would be ready to take off.
Okay. Very nice. So you planning on keeping this one? You just got it out in the sun?
Well, it's fun to have to put around the neighborhood, but you know, I'd be interested in maybe parting with it for the right price.
Yeah, we can definitely see if we get some people interested from the video, but we'll see if we can get this BMW loaded up first.
It's a Twin Star.
Twin Star CM200T. Beautiful.
81.
So we made it back from Wichita. It was about an hour drive from Wichita out here to the shop. We had no issues along the way. Nice, easy cruising. So let's go ahead and get these bikes unloaded into the shop. All right, we've got both bikes unloaded. Nothing too tricky here. This BMW is definitely a monster. It sits up a little higher, it weighs a little more, so I had to put a little bit more effort into it, getting it off the trailer. But plan of attack, we'll be doing an oil change, changing out the coolant, and also putting a fresh battery in it. Now another thing is Kelly was nice enough to provide me with these climber manuals, one for the BMW, one for the Honda. Since I'm gonna be taking off the seat and the fuel tank on the BMW, I'll go ahead and take a flip through those and see what it takes to get them off. so now that we've got the seat off, we can access some of our electrical components. Our battery sits down right here, so I will need to remove this side fender and make sure I can get that battery out. We don't have any juice, so we'll definitely need to get that replaced. We got our battery removed, nice and easy, nothing too complicated here. Now, in terms of removing the fuel tank, one of the things that I need to do is to move this fuel petcock to the off position, but this is seized. This does not want to turn in any direction, so we'll have to give it a little bit of lubricant and see if we can get it to free up. All right, so with a little bit of lubricant and a little bit of love, we've got it to move now pretty easily, so we'll get it into the off position, since we are going to be removing the fuel tank. All right, so I was finally able to get this fuel hose disconnected, but this stuff is harder than a rock, so we may be looking at doing some fuel line replacement. So before I can remove my fuel tank cover, I need to go ahead and remove my windshield and this front fairing that sits behind it, because there's a couple of bolts that I'll need to access. Once I've got this front fairing removed, then I can remove my fuel tank cover. Now we want to be careful here as we're removing these last few bolts. We don't want this fender to drop. We've also got a couple of electrical connections that we'll need to disconnect once we've got this off. Alright, so we've got our front fairing off. That exposes a lot more of our electrical components, but we're not worried too much about that right now. We will go through and clean up all the spider webs for sure, but now we're going to work on getting this tank cover removed. Now that we've got everything removed, there's just two screws that hold on this fuel tank cover. This side it was a Phillips head screw, so at some point in the past somebody lost the original Allen head bit. But we'll get this other screw removed from this side, and that should get our fuel tank cover off. Now on top of this fuel tank we have a vent hose on the right and on the left. I'll go ahead and remove both of those. Remove this 10mm here at the back of the tank. So dropped a little space here that sits right in here. Make sure to grab that. But that's pretty much our stripped down tank. So the next thing that I want to do is I want to get the oil drained, and I also want to get the radiator drained and take a look inside, see what kind of condition it's in. One thing that I don't always show when I'm going through and doing jobs like this, since I'm removing a lot of different plastic trim pieces, I want to make sure that I'm keeping my bolts organized. So I like to use these containers. This was actually used for washers, but once I use up all the washers in the container, I go through and I keep these just so I have something with individual compartments for each of my bolts. Now some people will even go as far as to label each one of these individual compartments with what screws go where, but since I'm filming this, I know that I go left to right, top to bottom, so if I'm going in the reverse order, I go right to left, bottom to top. And that keeps it simple for me, so that way I always know where my bolts are going. Anything like this, or even something like a fish tackle box where you've got a lot of individual compartments, work really well for organizing lots of bolts. Now, first inspection of the radiator actually looks to be pretty decent condition. Not seeing any rust, so it hasn't been sitting empty for a long time, which is good. But let's take a look and see what this oil looks like. So I've got my 17mm drain plug already loosened. For having sat for as long as it did, that oil looks to be in pretty good condition. Alright, so we've got that drain plug removed down low, but the next thing that I'll need to do is I'll need to get it up on the center stand for a couple of reasons. One, this is where my oil filter is sitting, so I need to make sure that I can get this to drain completely. I'll also get a rag underneath to help pick up any of the drippings. But the other thing is that I need to drain the frame. So on this bike, this is a dry sump engine, and some of the oil is actually held inside of the frame. So that drain plug right there is the other one that I have to let loose. So we'll go ahead and get this up on the center stand and we'll get those drained. All right, so our oil dipstick is right here at the center. Go ahead and get that removed. We'll set that off to the side. And now we can go ahead and drain this frame plug, and we'll also go ahead and remove the oil filter housing. Now that I got a good chance to throw my oil filter around, taking a look at the filter itself, it looks to be in pretty good condition. So far, things are actually looking pretty good. For this bike that's sat for 12 years, it's in pretty decent condition. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and make a run over to the parts store. I gotta get a fresh battery, get some oil for this. I've already got a filter. I'm gonna get a little bit of coolant. I'm also gonna get some brake fluid so we can go through and bleed the brakes front and rear, because after sitting for that long, I'm sure there's quite a bit of water in those brakes. But we'll go ahead and get those fluids taken care of. Also pick up some fresh fuel line for those hoses that I had to cut off since they were just rock solid. But everything's looking to be in pretty good condition, so we'll move on from here. Now, the other thing that I wanted to go ahead and take a look at was the condition of the spark plugs. Definitely got some charring on them, but so far, I mean, the gap, the electrode looks to be intact. I'll measure it, check it, but looks to be in pretty decent condition. Looks like it's been changed. It definitely doesn't look like it's the original one, but we'll get it taken care of. All right, now unfortunately my local parts supply isn't that extensive, especially when it comes to these older BMW motorcycles. So I've got most of the parts ordered. I think this is where we'll end the video for today. But in the next video, we'll work on removing these carburetors. We'll probably pull off our valve cover, take a look underneath, check the condition of the internals. We'll clean and lubricate the chain. We'll go through and we'll do some of these neglected maintenance items. Coming over here to the Honda Twin Star, one thing that I'm noticing after making an adjustment to this choke cable, I can watch the actuation happen. But if you look closely, this valve right here isn't following the action of the arm. So the actual choke arm will move, but the choke valve inside is not doing anything right now. So I'll need to take a look into it. Now, he did mention that he recently had the carburetor replaced, and since that happened, it just hasn't run right. So I'll need to take a look around, see if I can get a rebuild kit for this one to fix that spring action, or if I need to get another carburetor for it. Carburetors for these bikes aren't too expensive, so we'll talk to the owner, see what he wants to do, what he's feeling about it. Not only does this Honda have an electric push button start, but it also has the manual kickstart, and it's been a long time since I've seen a bike with a manual kickstart, but I thought that was kind of cool. Now, I think that'll do it for today's video. I want to say thank you all for watching. In the upcoming videos, we'll get these carburetors rebuilt. We've got more work to do on the DeLorean, so we'll get to show off some different types of fuel systems, how they work, and we'll get them repaired. So I want to say thank you all for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.